Hey guys, I'm Mike, and I'm a rising sophomore. I'm majoring in comp sci and cognitive science.
And I'm Adridi. I'm also a rising sophomore and I'm majoring in biomedical engineering on a pre-med track.
So we're just gonna talk about like the freshman experience and just some tips and tricks. So starting things off, we're gonna be talking about buses, which more often than not that we'll be using it pretty often when we get to classes here and there. Overall, like they're a bit annoying at the beginning, but it's able to just get you place to place, and it brings you like some convenience as a result.
For the thing with buses is you want to expect the worst case scenario, because I usually go 1 hour at least before all my classes because I take the buses pretty often. And one time, usually I get there within 30 minutes, but one time my bus actually got into an accident, so I was almost late for class.
Yeah, as for buses, like some people say like it's like 20 minutes to like get from class to class. Like I'd feel like that'd be alright if it's like on the same campus. I guess we'll talk about campuses. There are 4 campuses, well 5 if you include like Cook Doug as 2 separate ones, but Cook Doug is generally like they're close enough where it's just like people consider it one. Yeah, so Bush is pretty quiet for most part. It's mostly like STEM and like pharmacy kids, I guess, for most part.
I lived on College Ave, and basically College Ave is where all the parties and all the social events happen. But College Ave is pretty nice. It's small and it's where everything happens, really.
It has like a good feeling, like it feels like a city for most part, like since you're near like downtown New Brunswick at least.
Yeah, College Ave also has a lot of good restaurants in Easton Ave area. So
Livy, which like it feels most like a college campus to me, if that makes sense. Like everything's pretty close together, like the restaurants, the recreational places, and all the other like buildings.
Livingston, it has the best food by far. Like the Livingston dining hall is super good. That people from other campuses would come and eat there. But on top of that, they also have Henry's Diner, which you can use your meal swipes on as well. And it's like legitimately restaurant quality.
Everybody shits on Cook Doug as being like really bad, but it's just like I think once you experience it, you get to make the decision for yourself, I guess. Like it's definitely not for everybody, but you could still find like a close-knit community there, because I think that's where the Douglas Residential College is, where it's just like all women and then they're able to form a community and build upon that. I can't really talk about that because like I haven't experienced it.
I was on Cook Doug a lot actually first semester, and in my opinion they have really good food. Like there's Red Pine Pizza and Douglas Cafe, and they both take meal swipes, and they're both in the student center. And Cook Douglas has a lot of like greenery, and it's really beautiful to like walk around in the autumn. And the most annoying thing about Cook Douglas is that the bus system there is not very good. Like going on the Rex B, it's very difficult to find a Rex B to begin with, and then it takes another 30 minutes because geographically it's the farthest away from all the other campuses. And I just so happened to almost get run over twice on Cook Douglas, but I think that's like a me problem.
Crap, that sucks.
Yeah. Red Oak is pretty, like Passion Puddle. That's another example of scenery you can see there. They also have like the Kissing Bridge.
For food, I guess we'll go and like rank them. I'd probably place like Livy at the top, followed by like I guess either Bush or Cook Doug, and then I'd probably put like College Ave at the lowest, not because of everybody hating on it, but because like of all of them I'd consider it just the lowest.
Okay, so for me, I would definitely put Livy at number 1 because of Henry's Diner. I think they also have some Mexican food place you can use meal swipes on. And then obviously Livingston Dining Hall is really good. I don't think Bush Dining Hall is that bad, but I'd put Cook Douglas above it because the dining hall at Cook Douglas is so good. Even though there aren't a lot of options, it's the best one for vegans and the food is very healthy and fresh. So I'd put Cook Douglas second. College Ave and Bush, I would probably tie because the Bush dining hall isn't that good. College Ave's dining hall is really, really bad, but Cafe West makes up for our.
There's also like food trucks and stuff on campus. I know there's a taco truck, and then there's a Starbucks truck. I don't know if there's anything else though. The taco truck was actually pretty good. They just give you like, for a swipe, I think it's like 3 tacos and then a drink and then a side of like fries, I guess. It's a pretty huge meal. As for Starbucks, I think I've been there like once, but I don't really remember it besides like you get a drink and then like maybe a cookie or something. But I personally don't go to Starbucks that much though.
In my opinion, it isn't really worth using a meal swipe on a cup of coffee from Starbucks because a meal swipe, well, for freshmen, I think you need minimum $2.10 if you're living on campus, and that's like $12 a swipe, and you can just go out and buy Starbucks with your RU Express for like $5.
Yeah, so we're just gonna move on to meal plans now. So within a week, it sort of depends because like sometimes like my roommate, he gets up really late, so like he usually ends up eating like 2 meals a day. So as a result, in a week, he eats like 10 times on campus because he goes back on weekends. So every person's probably like different in terms of like what they need for a meal plan.
I would say that you definitely don't need 244. I had 210 and I lived on campus. I went back home every other weekend, but still like I ate breakfast for the most part. But most people don't even wake up in time for breakfast anyway. I would recommend 210. I had like 70 left over by the end of first semester.
Recently, they imposed something which was like maximum 3 swipes a day, I think. So if you fall behind, you can't really like deem it, I guess, so to say. So it's just like wasted money. Yeah, so for friends, it's like once you start, like the first week, everybody's like all bubbly, all excited because like, hey, college, I'm away from my parents. And it's just like everybody's eager to make new friends and meet new faces. Like after that, I feel like it sort of falls off and it's like all on you to like reach out and meet new people, I guess.
Honestly, the friends that I made first week, I don't think I stayed friends with because everyone was like fake bubbly and everything. So they were like friendly with everyone, but you didn't know like who was actually legitimately willing to make a connection with you. So I made friends like later on, but I'm still friends with my friends to this day. And like some recommendations for making friends would be like to join clubs that you're interested in so you can find people you're interested in. And also if you join an LLC, you can like bond over whatever you have in common in that LLC.
There are also like some social clubs on campus which are like more chill and laid back compared to like the pre-professional ones. Like I know there's Chinese student org where they just do like social events for most part, and it's just like people gathering together and just hanging out, I guess. Pretty fun. Also,
your dorm floor might also have some events to like get to know each other. I actually made a couple friends do that, so that's a thing.
Oh yeah, my RA did that where he had to present on something, but like everybody was probably sold on like the free food, honestly. Not to disrespect him or anything. So for dorms, it's just like you and whoever your roommate is, and you're gonna be spending the next like 6 months together. So just gotta deal with it, I guess.
The dorms on Livingston are probably the worst. Like Livingston, I think the Livingston Towers have AC, but the other freshman dorms don't. And I heard they had like cockroaches, and they're like they look like a prison because they're so claustrophobic and small. And the dorms on College Ave, like the river dorms, I think they have AC. I don't know if they're available to freshmen. The Honors College dorm is really nice. I lived there. It has AC, it has chandeliers and everything. It's right next door to the printing lab and Cafe West, which is the cafe that takes meal swipes. But other dorms are without AC and kind of small and ugly. And then the dorms on Cook Dug, I don't really know. I've been there once They're fine. They're clean. And then the dorms on Bush are probably the best because they have AC, but they're also not in an ideal location because Bush is kind of quiet and very STEM major dominant.
Yeah, so from my experience on Bush, it's just like I lived in Allen Hall, so it was just like the farthest away from the buses. It was sorta annoying, but it was like a minor inconvenience at most, because it was just like maybe a 5-minute walk to the bus station. But like besides that, I think the dorms were pretty low-key for the most part. The other only annoying part was just like you'd get an email like maybe once a month about how they're doing maintenance on like the hot water or like some other thing, and then you'd be just inconvenienced for the time, I guess. And then there's Best, which was like where my friends resided. They have like really tall ceilings and really big buildings, and I believe it's like they're still dorming in groups of 2, but within a room there's like a door that in like the bathroom that like connects like 2 of the rooms, so it's just like two groups, I guess, that are able to interact and like talk to each other like that, I guess.
Yeah, I'm living in Best Hall next year, so basically all 4 of us are suite mates, except one of us lives in one room and the other lives in the other room, but we're still interacting a lot, so.
All right, academics. So this is much more different than high school. It's like now instead of being in a classroom, you're just in like some huge auditorium with like hundreds of kids, and there's just one professor just like talking to everybody. Well, that's for like general science courses at least. Maybe not XFAS, but like that's like the general image of like what I imagine college now. It's like one teacher just like lecturing to a bunch of kids, and they can't really just like be held accountable for all the kids, so they're just like they just continue even if like you skip class or like you decide like, oh, it's not for you or whatever.
Yeah, a big difference between high school and college is that you're responsible for yourself, and the professor really doesn't care about you because the reason, like their main priority is research, really, because they're getting paid to do research and then teach on the side instead of teach and then do research on the side. And for that reason, professors usually are pretty lazy. Their goal is just to put information out there, and it's your job to like absorb it. I would recommend, if you're in honors, to take honors versions of gen ed courses, because instead of having like 200 people in a lecture like normal, you would have like max 60 people in a lecture. And it's very helpful because the professor usually cares more about you and the curves are usually more in your favor. For example, with the regular gen ed course, it usually works out so there's a forced distribution, which means that top 10% get an A, and then, you know, middle 50% get a B, and then less than that C, less than that D, less than that F. But in an honors class, for example, in like analytical physics, everyone in my class got an A. So
these professors are also like, they're pretty open to like helping students like get research done, because I reached out to a professor in order to like do research in the fall, and they're pretty open to it, I guess. In addition to academics, there's also just like getting your foot in the door and doing research or other experiences, I guess. Alright, we're just gonna add on to academics. So if you find yourself like struggling with class or like just not attending, I guess, you could find resources, whether it be attending office hours or attending like learning centers where they're staffed with tutors to help in regular gen ed courses to more advanced level courses.
Honestly, I wouldn't recommend the learning center unless you know the tutor is good, because one time I went and I knew more than the tutor and it was really awkward. So yeah, office hours are a pretty foolproof way of speaking to a guy who knows what he's talking about. And also it's important to go to office hours because since you're one out of like 300 kids, you want to build a connection with your professor, and also they're the ones who's grading you and testing you in the end, so they could give you like pointers on what they expect you to know, and also for recommendations in the future.
Don't be the student who just goes to like the last office hour though and just asks for a grade boost though, because like they're probably gonna be like, yo, who is this? and or just flat out no altogether. Whereas if you've developed like, I guess, a relationship with the professor, being active and like communicating with them, they might be more open with it, I guess. But that's not a guarantee, of course.
The thing with grading at Rutgers is that if you're in between a B, if you're like at an 89 or something, the professor can bump you up to a 90 if they like you enough. And that has happened. Actually, it's pretty common. And for example, my statics professor, if you attended one of his office hours, he gave you 10% extra credit. So that's definitely an incentive to go to office hours in case you're like on the edge of a grade or something, or you just want that cushion room.
Also, if you go office hours, you could also like find like-minded individuals who you could like, I guess, become friends with or like study with. Because I attended like bio office hours and it was just like the same 6 people, and we got to like know each other in addition to like brush up and like give each other pointers on like how to study for bio and like talk about classes in general. It's very relaxed.
The topic of study groups, I think it's important to have like a small study group, so like no more than 3 people, because otherwise it gets like distracting. And also make sure that you don't know more than the other people. Like make sure you guys are at similar levels, because one time I was in a study group and I taught everyone everything and I wasn't getting anything out of it. So it's important to make sure that you're on task and everyone can contribute to the study group. And also joining class group me's, like every class usually has a group me group, and that's a good way of staying informed with what's going on in the class. Or if you ever have any questions, like homework questions, you can ask in the group chat and usually you get a response. So that's nice.
Yeah, for academics, like the study groups, I usually find it like some friends are able to fill in like holes in like the other's understanding, and then as a result, like they will help each other, I guess.
You just have to make sure you pick the right people and that these people won't distract you and they know as much as you, or they know enough so that they can teach you something. So it's also really important for academics to have like a calendar with all the due dates in all your classes, because the professor isn't going to tell you or remind you usually that you have an exam this day and this day. They're going to expect you to be on top of it, and that's why they hand out like syllabi during the first week of school, which is called add drop. And basically you can use the syllabus to gauge like what's important in a class and what the professor expects of you. It's actually a very important resource that you should be on top of your entire semester.
And if you ever lose it, you could always check either WebRec or Canvas wherever the class is hosted on.
And more on add drop. So basically freshman classes are chosen by the advisors usually, but during the first week of class, you can basically choose which classes you want to drop and which classes you want to add to your schedule. So you can basically customize your schedule by yourself. So you should have some idea of what you want to add drop in before the first week of school, because it's a very competitive atmosphere. Everyone usually downloads a course sniper for the course they want to steal from someone else, and this is very recommended.
Yeah, so Course Sniper just like notifies you on the dot whenever somebody like drops a class, and then you just immediately get a notification and you're able to add it immediately.
Another important app that you should download is the Rider app. It's on Android and Apple, and basically it shows you a map and where the bus stops are and where you are on the map, so it's very easy to like navigate. And you can also see in real time where the bus that you want is. So like with the Rutgers app, it only tells you like this will come in 5 minutes, this will come in 2 minutes. But with the Rider app, it tells you the capacity of the bus, so you can expect like, I'm definitely not getting on this bus, it's 100% full. And you also see like, because sometimes the tracking system is wrong, so you can see if it's coming toward you even though it says it's like 5 minutes away. So that's pretty cool. And another important app is Google Maps or Google Earth, because navigating the Rutgers campus is really scary. Like, it's ginormous. And if you're easily lost, it's a challenge, which is why I recommend going to class early. But because I go to class early and I have Google Maps, I've never been to late for a class.
Yeah, within my first week, I was at like orientation, which was like on Bush campus, but I had no idea how to like get back to my dorm, even though it was like a 15-minute walk away. I was like at where like near Henry's is, and a walk back to Allen would take, I want to say like 15 minutes, but during the first week the buses are like definitely packed because like everybody's going classes and nobody's really skipping or doing.
For me, like the LX, which I rode pretty often because I had a lot of classes on Libby, there was never a point where it wasn't full. Like even at 10 a.m. in the morning, it was full, and it was pretty problematic. The Rex B was never full. The Rex L was never, well, it was a little full sometimes. But the rush hour is like 4 to 6, and you should avoid trying to go from different campuses during that time because traffic is crazy. Like what would have been a 30-minute bus ride takes an hour more.
Yeah, I definitely see that with the LX at least, because I generally had classes at like around 4-ish 2 times a week, but I'd always just like not be late or anything, but it'd generally take a longer time to get like from College Ave to Libby during rush hours. Alright, well, thanks for tuning in, and as always, don't forget to be awesome.